I entirely beg you, people and government of the DPR Korea, for your forgiveness.
North Korea is a land of mystery. Everyday life is like nothing you'll ever experience in your lifetime. The realities of this nation have shocked the world, from chilling government policies to human rights violations. Generations of innocent citizens have been locked away in labor camps. For those lucky enough to avoid the camps, every day is like a war, with widespread poverty, malnutrition, and hunger. What makes a nation suppress its people to such extremes? How do these policies impact everyday lives? Join us as we discuss the heartbreaking facts about North Korea that will haunt you. Juche policy. So, let's start with one of the craziest policies ever implemented by any country, the Juche. Juche was introduced to the world by the founding father of North Korea, Kim Il-sung. Juche essentially means self-reliance. Sounds good, right? Except that it destroyed hundreds of thousands of lives. By Juche, North Korea cut itself off from the rest of the world, even in moments when the country is in desperate need, like during famines. Take a moment to think about a country with its people starving, and instead of reaching out to the world for help, the government decides to isolate. According to global observers, this policy has kept North Korea from developing economically and prevents them from forming diplomatic relationships that could help in times of crisis. Juche is one of the main reasons North Korea has faced so many hardships that the outside world may not know about. People often wonder, why is this country so different from others? Juche is a massive part of the answer, setting the stage for today's pain and suffering. And this idea of self-reliance, it's still alive today under Kim Jong-un's leadership. But as we continue, we'll see just how worse state policies can get in North Korea. Lying to keep the leader's image. Now let's talk about Kim Jong-il, the son of North Korea's founder. The state media always claimed he had done unbelievable things when he was in power. For instance, the man scored a perfect 300 the first time he went bowling. But that's not all. They also claimed he sank 11 holes in one his first time playing golf. It almost sounds like a joke, but for North Koreans, these feats were proof of his extraordinary talent. Can you imagine living in a country where the leader's achievements are seen as almost supernatural? The whole thing wasn't just about his bowling skills or golf mastery. It was part of creating this larger-than-life image of Kim Jong-il to make him appear like a perfect person, a superhero in the eyes of his people. The sad part is that many North Koreans genuinely believed it. And why wouldn't they? The state-controlled media painted him as some sort of godlike figure. The country continues to live in isolation today, and the people inside remain trapped in a distorted version of their leader's greatness. Prison camps. What we are about to reveal is truly terrifying. Do you know that between 150,000 and 200,000 North Koreans have been locked away in prison camps, and the conditions there are just horrifying? These camps are surrounded by electrified fencing to make sure no one escapes. The worst part? Many of the people there are imprisoned not because of crimes they committed, but because they're related to someone who committed a political offense. It is like getting locked away for something you didn't even do, simply because of your family. People in these camps are forced to work in brutal conditions. They work in mining, logging, or farming with barely any tools, and the environment is so harsh that it's estimated up to 40% of them die from malnutrition. If you think that is all, well, it even gets worse. Many prisoners are put to work while suffering from starvation and disease, with no real hope of escape or survival. And all of this is happening just behind those fences, hidden from the world. The camps are so secretive that few people even know exactly where they are or how many exist. But those who manage to escape often share terrifying stories of what they went through, and it's hard even to imagine the horrors they faced. We're about to reveal how much control the regime has over the lives of its citizens, and it will leave you completely speechless. You cannot own your car. Only military personnel and government officials in North Korea can own motor vehicles. Owning a car is entirely out of the reach of the average citizen. It's not about wealth or saving up. It is simply forbidden. Instead, most people have to walk or rely on overcrowded public transport to get anywhere. The roads, many of them are empty because so few vehicles are even allowed. This strict control is another way the government keeps a tight grip on its people. If you can't travel freely, it's much harder to question what's happening in your country or think about life beyond its borders. For the regime, this restriction helps maintain its isolationist policies, keeping citizens from connecting with the outside world or even other parts of North Korea. What's even stranger is that, despite these limitations, North Korea has a network of highways and roads built for propaganda purposes. And if you think that's extreme, wait until you hear about how much control the government exerts over something as personal as your hairstyle. Government decides your haircut. Now, let's talk about haircuts. Yes, even your hairstyle isn't your choice in North Korea. Citizens must pick from one of 28 approved haircuts. It sounds absurd, but it's true. Unmarried women must keep their hair short. Married women get more freedom, but only within the limits of the government-approved styles. Young men can't grow their hair longer than 2 inches. Older men can grow their hair up to 2 3/4 inches. Are you wondering why they made this law? The government wants to ensure everyone looks uniform and obedient, reinforcing the idea that no individuality exists. The idea is that even something as personal as your hair belongs to the state. It's all part of the bigger picture, keeping people focused on obedience, not questioning. For visitors, these rules seem ridiculous, even laughable, but for North Koreans, it's just another part of daily life, under a regime that micromanages almost everything. Citizens only watch state media. The government in North Korea exercises complete control over information. Let's break it down. All televisions are locked to state-controlled channels. That means the only news or entertainment people see is what the government approves. Forget flipping through channels or watching global news. None of that exists for the people of North Korea. And the internet? For most North Koreans, it's a complete mystery. Instead, there's a closed domestic network with strictly controlled content. Foreign visitors might get access to 3G networks, but the outside world is essentially blocked for locals. By restricting access to global news, the regime ensures that people only know what it wants them to know. Propaganda becomes the only reality. For instance, North Koreans are constantly told how potent and prosperous their country is, even when millions are struggling with hunger and poverty. Without access to the outside world, many believe what they're told. While some people risk their lives to secretly listen to smuggled radios or watch illegal DVDs, just to have an idea of what the world outside is like. This sounds terrifying, but the lengths North Korea has gone to develop its missile program are equally shocking. Keep watching to find out. Missiles over food. North Korea's missile program began in the 1970s with help from the Soviet Union, and since then, it's become one of the regime's top priorities. The North Korean Hwasong-15 missile has a range of 8,000 miles, reaching Washington, the rest of the continental United States, and Australia. They also have other medium-range missiles capable of flying over neighboring countries like Japan and South Korea. For a country struggling with poverty and hunger, pouring massive resources into weaponry sends a clear message to the rest of the world. We are strong and we won't be ignored. But this show of strength comes at a significant cost. The program siphons resources that could be used to feed the millions of malnourished citizens. Instead, the regime prioritizes building weapons to maintain its grip on power and keep the international community on edge. For the people of North Korea, these weapons are symbols of national pride and protection. Now let's take a closer look at what life is like along one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world, the Korean Demilitarized Zone. This is the border between North Korea and South Korea, one of the world's most heavily militarized areas. On paper, it's a buffer zone, but in reality, it's brimming with soldiers, weapons, and tension. North Korea has about 1.2 million active military personnel, compared to South Korea's 680,000 troops. Additionally, South Korea is backed by 28,000 US soldiers stationed on its border. The DMZ stretches about 160 miles and is surrounded by barbed wire, landmines, and guard posts. There have been many incidents over the years along the border, including exchanges of gunfire and defections by desperate North Korean soldiers. It's common for propaganda messages to be blasted over loudspeakers, each side trying to outdo the other. This border divides two worlds. On one side, South Korea flourishes with modern cities, bustling technology, and an open society. On the other side, North Korea has a population struggling under oppressive control and hunger. Talking about hunger and how just hungry and malnourished North Koreans are will shock you. Hunger and malnutrition. We have come to one of the harshest truths about life in North Korea: widespread hunger and malnutrition. According to the World Food Programme, around 6 million North Koreans, or nearly a quarter of the population, require food aid to survive. It's a critical situation where 1/3 of the country's children are chronically malnourished or stunted due to a lack of proper nutrition. The problem is especially tragic when you compare North Koreans to their southern neighbors. According to studies, North Koreans born after the Korean War are, on average, 2 inches shorter than South Koreans, thanks to years of food insecurity, which has now taken on the population. To make matters worse, most North Koreans rely on corn as their primary food source. Meat and other nutritious foods are rare luxuries. Government-run farms often fail to produce enough food due to outdated practices and mismanagement. Instead of addressing these issues, the regime continues to funnel resources into its military and propaganda efforts. During the devastating famine of the 1990s, as many as 2 million people are believed to have died from starvation. The famine was caused by a combination of natural disasters and disastrous government policies, and the scars of that period are still visible today. Neighbors spy on each other. One of the most significant issues in North Korea is the regime's vast network of informants. It is like living in a society where you can't trust your neighbor, co-worker, or family. That's the reality for most North Koreans. The government has created an atmosphere of constant fear by employing everyday citizens to monitor and report on one another. People are encouraged to spy on their peers. If someone is caught listening to a foreign radio broadcast, questioning the regime's policies, or even making a comment perceived as disloyal, they can be reported. And trust us, you wouldn't love the implication. You might be lucky to get public humiliation, imprisonment in brutal labor camps, or outright death. But here is the scariest part. The accusations don't have to be true. The mere allegation is enough to destroy lives. Many people use the informant system to settle personal grudges or climb the social ladder, knowing the accused will have no chance to defend themselves. This culture of surveillance extends to every corner of life. Unauthorized access to foreign radio or TV broadcasts is punishable by severe penalties, including forced labor or worse. Next on our list is the nearly total lack of private property and how the state owns almost everything in North Korea. No private ownership. In North Korea, the concept of private property doesn't exist. Nearly everything, from homes to farmland, is owned by the state. Imagine living in a place where your house, your job, and even your livelihood are not yours, but are merely borrowed from the regime. The government controls where people live and work. Here is how it works. Citizens are assigned housing, often in old apartments with minimal amenities. Moving to a different area, that's not a personal choice. It requires government approval. The same applies to jobs. People cannot choose their career paths. Instead, they're placed where the regime believes they're most useful, regardless of their ambitions or skills. And the worst is the legal control. There is no modern, independent judicial system in North Korea. Instead, the law serves as a tool to enforce the regime's will. Justice, as we understand it, is absent. People accused of factual or fabricated crimes face severe punishments without fair trials. This might break your heart, but the truth is that punishments in North Korea often extend to their families, up to the third generation of the defendant. Let's talk about how the regime uses counterfeit operations and illicit trade to fund its oppressive rule while its people suffer in poverty. Counterfeit operations. It is no secret that North Korea has been economically isolated for many years. But rather than reforming its policies to help its citizens, the regime has turned to smuggling, counterfeiting, and illegal trade to fund its operations. Do you know North Korea prints fake US currency? Yes, you heard that right. North Korea has been producing fake $100 bills, often super notes, because of their remarkable quality. These counterfeit bills are so actual that they've circulated globally, creating headaches for governments and banks. But it doesn't stop there. The regime also profits from producing and exporting counterfeit goods like fake cigarettes and pharmaceuticals, including counterfeit Viagra. Even more disturbing is their involvement in drug smuggling. Global drug agencies estimate that North Korea runs one of the most sophisticated methamphetamine smuggling rings. These illegal trades not only generate significant income, but also keep the regime's inner circle living in luxury, far removed from the hardships faced by ordinary citizens. Then there's their arms trade. North Korea sells small arms, missile parts, and other military equipment to rogue nations and terrorist groups despite international sanctions. These transactions funnel billions of dollars into the regime's pockets while violating global peace and security. Meanwhile, the average North Korean struggles to survive. The annual GDP per capita is shockingly low, and basic needs like food, electricity, and healthcare are scarce. The following fact on our list may come to you, but it is true. North Korea is rich. Despite the severe economic isolation imposed by international sanctions, North Korea has one thing the world wants: valuable minerals. The country sits on a treasure trove of resources: copper, nickel, zinc, iron, and gold, worth an estimated $6 trillion. However, rather than using these resources to improve people's lives, the regime has primarily kept these profits for itself. With foreign companies and governments seeking to tap into these mineral reserves, North Korea has allowed investments in mining operations. Chinese and European companies, in particular, have set up ventures to extract these minerals, which have the potential to bring in billions of dollars. But this hasn't improved the living conditions for North Koreans. Instead, the revenue fuels the regime. These mining ventures don't just benefit the country's economy in any meaningful way. They serve a more sinister purpose. The profits generated from these deals are funneled into the regime's military and weapons programs, allowing North Korea to continue building its missile and nuclear capabilities. At the same time, the people remain trapped in poverty. The truth is that North Korea's government prioritizes its survival over the well-being of its people. Let's go back to the border between North and South Korea. one of the most heavily militarized areas in the world. Fake town for propaganda. North Korea built a fake village near the South Korean border in the 1950s. It is called the Peace Village, except that the realities are different. From a distance, it is a thriving and vibrant community, boasting modern and colorful buildings. Surprise, surprise, no one lives there. According to official North Korean records, 200 families live in the village, but that is all on paper. Satellite images and South Korean intelligence have confirmed that there is no living soul in the Peace Village. Then why spend millions to build an empty village? The North Koreans designed it as a facade to lure South Koreans into defecting by painting a picture of a prosperous North Korea. That's not all. The regime has even gone so far as to repaint the buildings and enhance their appearance whenever there is a visible effort in the south to renovate or improve nearby infrastructure, showing North Korea's lengths to preserve the illusion. But wait, the village might have failed to entice defections, but it has succeeded in exposing the country's obsession with controlling perceptions. Visitors, including journalists and diplomats, have been invited to view the village as evidence of North Korea's commitment to peace. According to those allowed to visit, the village has no living soul. The buildings therefore serve a single purpose: to project a positive image to the outside world, masking the harsh realities that many North Koreans experience daily. A love for accordions. The North Koreans give special reference to the accordion. It is both an instrument of culture and education. So, what could be wrong if the regime is obsessed with a musical instrument? Well, everything the regime does is designed to keep the people in bondage. The regime's devotion to this instrument is part of the effort to promote a specific, state-controlled culture. The accordion is so beloved that all teachers in the country must learn how to play it. The idea behind this decree is to provide every citizen with the ability to play music that can be shared in public performances, contributing to the collective spirit that the regime promotes. This national love for accordions also helps to ensure that music serves a propaganda purpose. As a portable, the accordion is ideal for spreading the regime's ideologies in mass public celebrations or performances. Schools, universities, and other institutions routinely feature accordion music as part of their official gatherings. Additionally, the accordion's relatively simple design makes it accessible for people to learn quickly, which is beneficial in a society where conformity is valued above individuality. Interestingly, other instruments like the guitar and harmonica are still popular. You can't just play what you like on them. The state provides the music. We kept one of the most shocking facts for the last. No birthday celebrations on leaders' death days. We are talking about state control over birthday celebrations. Citizens born on July 8th or December 17th, the death anniversaries of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, are not allowed to celebrate their birthdays on those days. Instead, these individuals must shift their celebrations to the following day. This policy is part of the country's national mourning tradition. The reason is to promote the cult tradition. In case you have never heard, that cult tradition is a way of instilling unnecessary fear into the hearts of the people to promote the image of the regime. The official reason for the decree is to show your loyalty and respect for the Kim family, and if you refuse, you know the answer. This annual tradition affects an estimated 100,000 North Koreans. Over there, birthdays are not just a personal affair, it is a matter of public importance. On these days, mourning ceremonies and group activities occur across the nation, with citizens expected to show their reverence through mass events such as collective dances, performances, crying, and displays of devotion. By regulating something as personal as birthday celebrations, North Korea ensures that the leadership remains at the center of all activities, even in a country where individualism is severely discouraged. Additionally, these mourning practices show that the Kim family was sent from God. The dynasty is not just a political leadership, but a central, unifying force sent from above. Thank you for staying with us. Which of these facts do you find most haunting? Share your opinions with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.